Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have an early impressions video, and there's a couple factors at play here. So first of all, let me show you the fragrance and the house. It's from a house called Beaufort, London, which I've never smelled anything from this house before. So sometimes, when you smell a first fragrance of the house, it's not only the fragrance that you're smelling, it's also the house itself. It's an introduction to the house, whether you're going to continue your journey on with the house and continue to discover more, or whether you're going to say that, this house isn't necessarily for me. So this is a sample that Rich Mitch sent me. So thank you very much, Rich. We did a 10 sample swap, some fragrances he's never smelled from my collection and some fragrances that I never smelled from him, from his collection. And this is Rake and Ruin, okay? Now, a couple things. So today is actually Valentine's Day, which I did my This Is Not a Top 10 Rose video yesterday. And I laid out some gorgeous rose fragrances. And then I saw that Rich Mitch did a video yesterday of his weekly fragrance rotation, which he does every Sunday. And he talked about this fragrance actually almost defeating him and almost forcing him to wash it off. And I said, well, I have to experience this. I'm going to wear that tomorrow. And I made it my scent of the day without even thinking that it's Valentine's Day. And this is an insane scent. This is an absolutely insane scent. My wife is probably going to kill me. But let me do a fresh spray just so I can remind myself of the opening. Oh my God. I think I just ate it. Okay. So, one moment. All right, so let's start over here. Okay, so Rake and Ruin is, if you're somebody who's, jovial and happy and you just want to put across a face that is opening and forthcoming and welcoming, do not wear this. This is a fragrance that belongs in a museum. However, I will say that I have a 5-hour dry down right here, so I like to wear the fragrance at least for a little bit before I give you guys these initial impressions, because if I had worn this and if I smelled it off of initial spray right now, what I would say would probably be completely different from what I say after wearing it for 5 hours. And let me give you some of the notes just so you know what we're dealing with here. By the way, the Beaufort bottles have this big giant X across the front, almost like a condemned sign, do not enter. And you get this, if you're into niche fragrances, and that's part of the reason why I loved Amouage for so long, is because it was different, it was unique, it was out of the ordinary. They took chances. This is probably a house that maybe you should try to look into. Now, let me read you the notes. Because surprisingly, this fragrance isn't all about, shock factor. It's not just about, whoa, this is an insane composition. This is actually a pretty well-made fragrance, which was surprising. That's point number one I want to make. Will I dive deeper into this house, though? I don't know, but let me tell you the notes. So there's smoke, angelica, which I love the note of angelica, gin, and you do get a little bit of this, you do get a little bit of this alcoholic gin, maybe juniper type vibe. There's gin and juniper, which juniper, if you didn't know, is actually used as a dressing for a gin. That's what junipers are usually used for. There's Sichuan pepper, which I totally get. The Sichuan pepper and the smoke seems to be the star of the show in the opening. And then there's pink pepper, orange, lemon, and coriander. The orange and lemon and coriander, I think, just kind of play a very back supporting role, if you will. Now, once you get to the mid, it brings in more smoke. By the way, smoke is in the top the mid, and the base. Okay, so if you don't like smoke, this fragrance is not for you. And you notice it doesn't say incense, it says smoke. And I was trying to think about what kind of smoke this evokes in my mind. You know, sometimes your mind just clicks on something and you just know that that's what it reminds you of for whatever reason. You know, I heard Peter talking about this today on one of his, I think he did a interlude video, and he was saying that sometimes his mind just, you know, latches onto something, whether it's white leather, brown leather, black leather, who knows how the mind works in that way. But the smoke in this, my mind latched onto something, and maybe it'll give you an idea of the type of smoke that this is. Cannon smoke. That's what it hit me as. It hit me as if you're in, you know, revolutionary times and you lit a candle, you lit a cannon, and the cannon just, you know, you've seen the, you know, the movies, they light the cannon, the wick burns down, bam, the cannon shoots, and you get this huge plume of smoke. That's the smoke that this actually reminds me of. So again, insane fragrance, especially for Valentine's Day. But there are some notes that begin to come into the composition that I actually really like. There's cypress and there's pine, which give this, you know, interesting green aspect. There's castoreum and labdanum, which I both love. And by the way, I was searching for the castoreum in the dry down and I didn't get it. And I was a little bit disappointed. But now that we are, let's see, how many hours in are we? 5 hours in. So I just got it about 15 minutes ago, that castoreum dry down, which I love, with labdanum. Not as well done in a modern, you know, perfume as, let's say, Promise's castoreum dry down, but very good. That's why I say I think this is a well-made fragrance with good ingredients. It's insane, but it's well-made. There's also Costus, which I think is supposed to have this pissy smell, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me if they know the answer to what Costus brings to a composition. There's Violet and Orris. And again, we talked about this during my Iris video. You're a Rose, who's a, you know, perfumer in training, if you will, was explaining that many of the same materials used to create an Orris accord are also used to create a Violet accord. So sometimes you'll smell Violet, you'll smell Orris. They're some of the same materials, it's just how the perfumer doses them. And then you get smoke in the base, you get woody notes, you get ambrarome, sandalwood, and musk. Now, ambrarome is some sort of synthetic compound I'm not as familiar with. It's supposed to, you know, add some sort of push to the fragrance, obviously, and a base. There's also one note that that is not listed in Fragrantica, or actually, I'm sorry, it is. I just didn't mention it, I don't think. It's licorice. And licorice, so you get a licorice feel in a way, but to me, it almost feels like, you know, after you've eaten, is eaten a word? After you've eaten a hunk of black licorice, let's say, you know how it leaves your mouth almost like this, with this licorice film? That's what it reminds me of, the licorice in this. Not like you're just smelling a bag of black licorice, but almost like that film after effect that licorice leaves on you. That's kind of what the licorice in this reminds me of. It's an insane fragrance, let's put it that way. You know, I give houses a lot of, I give them a lot of flack for being boring and doing the same things. You know, other houses that just put out these boring mainstream releases. So when something like this comes out, even though I don't think I would buy a full bottle, as a perfume lover, I'm very happy to smell stuff like this. This came out in 2018, okay? So well into the IFRA days. And, you know, putting stuff like this out takes courage. You know, this feels like somebody that's going to go to a wedding, but he's not there to get married. He's there to crash the wedding, okay? Or this feels like somebody that is, gonna go to a graveyard and, you know, not go mourn the dead, but go set up a tent and party in a graveyard on Halloween. Or it, you know, it gives that vibe of mischief, of you know, of sitting in a church and you're not there to pray. You're there to kind of just cause mischief and chaos, and you know, it almost feels juvenile in a way, if you know what I mean. You know, almost like you know, throwing eggs at a car when you're a little kid. You know, it's risky. You're taking a chance. You're doing something that is probably illegal, but you know, you're young and dumb, and you're gonna take those kind of chances. That's kind of what this fragrance reminds me of for some reason. It reminds me of um, teenage destruction in a way, because it's just such an insane composition. You know, it's a composition that you know, I couldn't imagine a professional man wearing this to the office. Um, it would never work. I also would say I couldn't imagine a man wearing this on Valentine's Day, but here we go. Julie Dunkley is the perfumer, according to Parfumo. And I don't know anything about Julie Dunkley other than the fact that she's done, I think, 8 fragrances for the house, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and I don't know anything else about her work other than the fact that she's obviously willing to take a chance by putting something, you know, like this out. There's also this someone mentioned this ashtray leather, which I get what they're saying, but that's not what I thought of at first. You know, I get this instead of cigarette smoke or tobacco, I get this, like I said, pre-revolutionary times canon, um, which I guess if you're looking at it in the context of a boat, of a boat from the 17 or 1800s, they had cannons on board. I don't know the backstory to this fragrance is the thing that I'm missing, because I think all of their fragrances are based on old ships, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be just talking complete nonsense here. But I think that potentially they're based on old ships or something along those lines from the old days. And Rich Mitch said that this reminds him of the 1800s, and I completely get that. Completely get that reference. This has something of a, you know, you're on like you know, an old ship with cannons, and you know, you can kind of smell the wood from the ships. If you think of it in that context, it's an insane fragrance. The sailors are drinking. This just hit me out of the blue, by the way. That's why I'm just rambling on about it. But I was trying to think about something to say about this fragrance before I turned the camera on, and I honestly, other than, you know, talking about the smoke, which is unique, talking about the gin note, the Sichuan pepper, the licorice feel, the greenness from the pine and cypress, the dry down. Oh, this is what I did want to mention. So it starts out insane. So this is almost a fragrance that really does have a top, a mid, and a base. Because once you get into the 4 to 5 hour mark, it really takes its foot off of the gas. Some of the craziness that you're smelling in the top goes away, and you're left with a pretty respectable, I wouldn't say elegant by any stretch of the imagination, but you're left with a respectable base, something that you could probably go out in public and not offend the world once you hit the dry down. Also, when you first smell this, you think this is going to be like a 20-hour fragrance, a 25-hour fragrance. It's not. I can already tell it's taken its foot way off of the pedal 5 hours in. And it almost feels like it's really starting to dissipate already. So they've created something that is definitely unique, especially nowadays. So you have to give them that. If you're a perfume lover that wants to smell something unique. I don't know value for money. I think these are pretty expensive. So I would say, would I run out and buy a bottle after this first impression or early impression? No, I would not. But would I be interested to smell something else from the house? Sure, I would. I would love to smell some of their other compositions, but you know, it feels like you're gonna put this on and go do mischief almost. You know, you're going to watch the world burn. You're gonna whatever your thing may be. I mean, it feels like you're going to you're gonna go do bad in this, not good for the world. Um, and it's a tough sell in today's world where everyone is so offended at everything. I could totally see somebody getting offended at this, totally, especially nowadays. Um, so it might be something you just kind of wear for yourself that you buy and you enjoy it occasionally, and you know, you have your other fragrances that are more work appropriate, or more, you know, going out appropriate. I couldn't imagine wearing this to a club or something. Um, some girl would think you just stepped off of the Mayflower, or you know, it deserves to be in a museum. This fragrance is a art piece just for the fact of creating something unique and different. And I'm glad I got to try it. But this would be a pass on a full bottle for me. I do have a bunch of full bottles coming though, so stay tuned for some first impressions, early impressions over the next couple days. And I will see you again tomorrow. Let me know if you know anything about the house, if you know about the history, if you have experience with Rake and Ruin. I don't hear many people talk about this house, and I totally see why. You have to be, I think if you were, I think if you were just an occasional perfume wearer, a casual perfume wearer, if you will, and you smelled this, you might fall over and faint and hit your head, especially if you smell the opening. The dry down's not as bad. Like I said, it's much more cultured, let's say. So, you know, anyways, that's my first take on it. I probably haven't done it justice. But on a first impression, that's literally all I can tell you guys. If you want to smell something completely insane, if someone came up to me and said, what's the most insane fragrance I can try? I would probably point you to this or Myths Man by Amouage. Those two are just insane. I think Myths Man is actually a little bit more wearable. I wear Myths Man and actually enjoy it. This I would find hard wearing on a day, on just a normal day. You know, today was a day I got to test it, but on a normal day I would find a hard time wearing this. So anyways, that's my first impression. Thank you, Rich Mitch, for the samples. I really appreciate you sharing some of these with me, and I appreciate you guys sharing some of your time to watch me ramble about this early impression on Rake and Ruin. If you have experience with the house or the fragrance, let me know, and I'll see you guys again next time with another fragrance video. Take care. Bye-bye.